Welcome everyone to our series, Success in Real Estate. I'm joined today with our Rookie of the Year from last year with the Salt Lake Board of Realtors, Ben Barber. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Ben, the Salt Lake Board of Realtors Rookie of the Year is probably one of the most coveted awards, especially being in the education where we have over a few hundred students a month graduate, and the ambitious ones, they hear about the award and then they start salivating.
Yeah.
Did you know what the award was when you were in school? Was it even on radar?
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware of it until after we came out. Someone in my office at RandLife had won it the year before. And that's what really piqued me to it, was to say, do we have a shot at that? Do I have a shot to go out and actually produce the same kind of results? Uh-huh. And it was funny because I misunderstood the qualifications for the award. I didn't realize it was for the first 12 months of production. I thought it was for the first full year. So I looked at his first full year and said, okay, well, if I'm going to have a shot at that, I need to go do 50 units. So I set the bar incredibly high to get that award, and then found out it was actually the first 12 months.
Okay. So. All right. Well, we'll talk about the award in a minute. Let's get to know you a little bit, your background, where you're coming from. So tell me a little bit about your history, your interest in real estate. When did you really get interested in real estate?
One thing about me is that when I was 17, 18, my family was blue-collar family. We never really had a ton of money growing up, and I grew up in an area where half of my friends had a ton of money and the other half really didn't. And so growing up, I kind of had this sick feeling that I would never, income-wise, that there was never a shot. I'd never have the nice house, the nice cars, or anything like that. So as I was a teenager, I started looking for opportunities to make money besides the traditional path, besides just trading the hours for a paycheck, which led me to a bunch of stints with multi-level marketing. Okay. And you're seeing these guys that are, a handful of people are making just obscene amounts of money, right, and they're driving these big motor coaches and these wonderful cars. So by the time I was 17, I thought I had it all figured out and I was going to make a ton of money doing multi-level marketing. So I left school my senior year with, I think I left in January. So I mean, I was this close to graduating and said, no, I'm not going to wait. I can go figure this out. I can go make money myself.
You want to grab the world by the tail, right?
I did, yeah, I did. And then I think a lot of it too was I was listening to all these people that were being successful, but they weren't going traditional paths to do it. They weren't doctors or lawyers or accountants, things like that. They were humble beginnings, and they had turned it around and they had done something great with it. And so it was romanticized. I kind of fell in love with the idea of being that success story. And then when I got out in the real world, I realized that that's not really, like it's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But I still had that mindset of saying, for me, it wasn't enough to go back and say, I think at the time I was waiting tables, and it wasn't enough to say I'm going to wait tables my whole life. It was, this is a temporary placeholder until something bigger happens. And my dad did new construction for, I think when he retired, he'd done it for 30 years, 35 years, something like that. So as a summer job growing up, I always did buildings with him. I'd go out and he would mainly have me do the grunt work of prepping the building, like for paint. So it was just a lot of vacuuming the walls, which was a pain. But so I grew up around agents, and I grew up around a really great broker, Kyle Miller, with Miller & Company, and I was able to see what he did and see what kind of business he built and see what kind of life he had. And that was my first interest into it.
But when how old were you at this?
I was about 17, 16, 17. And then when I really started looking at real estate was when I was 19 or 20. And really the thought occurred to me that when I met with a broker that had basically said, it's a referral business, it's a networking business. And I thought, I'm 20 years old, I don't know anybody that is doing real estate. So I never got into it, but that's what kind of sparked everything for me, was saying, okay, I don't know enough. I didn't feel like I knew enough people to go out and actually build a referral-based business at that time. So I said, well, what's the next best thing I can do? And I took a different path, and I got into mortgages, and I got into lending, became an account executive. Right as the market crashed in 2006, 2007, I was managing a group of client advocates for Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse came in and bought Select Portfolio Servicing on State Street, and they were going to do an operational hub. And I came in and managed a group of client advocates that basically interpreted the guidelines, the lender guidelines, and worked with our account executives, but then the market fell apart. So market fell apart, kind of scrambling, and I fell backwards into REO, into basically bank-owned properties. A person I had worked with previously came to me. I was out of work. It was a really it was a really tough time for me back in '07. My mom died in '07 after a battle with cancer, and growing up, she was like my biggest inspiration, but the mortgage industry fell apart at the same time as she passed away, and then I went for 8 months without a job and just trying to figure out what to do, and just really kind of floundering. Nothing had gone the way that I thought it was going to, and I was starting to get to that point where, as I'm approaching 30, realizing that the dreams that I had aren't really going to come true, and that's a tough thought to have, because part of me is wired to believe that big things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And then this other part is saying, but every single day life sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Like not able to cover some of the bills, and then to make up for it, I was trying to buy the image of success at one point. So I remember I had an $800 car payment at one point when my gross income was like $2,000 a month, because I wanted everybody to think that I had made it, that all this talk and some bad decisions to leave school and to try one company or another, that they actually worked, and that I had actually done it, when in reality I really hadn't. So the real estate thing, which I am coming back to, I tend to take a long way to get back to things sometimes, but someone that worked for me at Credit Suisse found me back in 2008, and they said, I'm working for this really great company doing REOs, and I'd never heard of REO, I'd never heard the term. And so he explained to me, bank-owned properties, they've taken it back through foreclosure, and as a company, all we do is we just find agents to do free valuations. That's all I knew about it. The job was for an entry-level position, a pre-listing specialist come in, and you're just going to find agents. That's all you do, is just call them and then scrub their BPOs, scrub their valuations, right? So I went in, I got hired, and it was like, for the first time, everything just clicked. And it was one of the most natural fits that I've ever ran into. So I started working at Green River as a pre-list coordinator, and then within a month I was promoted to an asset manager. So all the people I came in with who had been there for a long time, I jetted right past them, took on my own portfolio, and started working with agents throughout the country. And that's when I really fell in love with real estate, like as a career, because I was talking with people who every day were doing it. But then I spent all this time envying them for having the guts to go do it. Because it's tough when you're drawing a straight commission. Like that's a big, that's a big leap of faith.
Right.
And at the time I didn't have it, because I think I'd been beaten up so much over the last decade. But I loved being around it. I loved doing valuations. I thought that was one of the funnest things in the world. I loved looking at ways to improve a property, to get a better net return for the bank. I loved looking at it saying, I'm going to move a first-time home buyer into this house, so I need to make sure we have new carpet and new paint. I love doing inspections, the smell of new carpet, new paint, new construction, that stuff. So
the substance of the job you really took to. It was just that leap to the commission base, the no security net is really what deterred you at that point?
No, so with that I was on a salary. So it was more, that led me to starting to get the bigger peek at the real estate life, because some of the guys I was working with, so I was working inside Green River Capital, managing portfolios throughout the country and working with agents who were doing 30, 40 million a year as agents, but I was still playing it safe on the inside, but the REO thing made sense to me and I was good at it. I was able to value properties really well. I was able to build rapport with agents and understand what I was talking about and be able to hold my own talking to very experienced people, negotiate. I learned to negotiate incredibly aggressive, but I basically stayed and played safe in that environment for 7 years until I'd really made it in the REO world. I was working in Texas and daycare. So with the kids, I had 2 kids at the time, and one of them was having a really hard time with the daycare they went to. My wife was working full time for Chase, managing their bankruptcy division, and then I was at Vendor Resource Management. I was like the big shot operations manager. I had 9 asset managers working underneath me. We sold 300 to 400 houses a month, and every single one of them came through me for price approvals, repair strategy approval. My sale price to list price ratio was 98%, so I was like really proud of my job. I was doing really well. I was almost making 6 figures with bonus, and then my son was having a hard time at his daycare, and my wife and I were looking at some different options, and we found this one where he was only 3 at the time. And we found this daycare where they actually go in and they like teach the kids how to cook, and they have science time, and they had an indoor gym and all these wonderful things. And when we took him, his eyes just like lit up, and we could see that whatever behavioral problems he was having could be fixed here because he had the teachers were all incredibly educated. They'd taken additional courses to take care of the kids, and then it came down to them, we couldn't afford it. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me because I had just invested 7 years into a career, and with the kind of money that we were making, we couldn't afford to put our kid in this extra daycare. And that was the that was the tipping point for me, and really stepping back and saying, over the last 7 years, I've sold 10,000 houses with agents all across the country, and I've envied them every single day because they have the guts to go out and do it for themselves and for their family. And so my wife and I, it was incredible. She was 9 months pregnant with our third child, and we decided that we were going to basically leave both of our jobs, get our license, move back home to Utah, and either sink or swim as real estate agents.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we didn't tread lightly into
You're
the water.
burning the boat.
No, yeah, we just jumped in.
Yeah.
We said, how much money do we have if we cash out our 401k? How much money do we have? How long will that last? Let's do it. And so yeah, we came back to Utah, and I remember we got back here right in the middle of summer, and we were renting a house, and I had to go buy a lawnmower, and it was $200. And I was at the store just like, why did we rent this? We should have just done an apartment. We can't afford $200 for this lawnmower. We only have X amount of money in savings. And as our savings dried up, I think we were down to like $1,000 when I got the first commission check.
Wow.
And then it just started snowballing, and then it went, 5,000, then 9,000, then 17,000, then 29,000, and it just picked up steam, and we just never looked back.
So your wife practices with you?
She did, yeah. So she ended up getting her license. I got my license in July, and then I think she got her license in January or February.
Okay. And you cashed out your 401k and lived on that?
Yep, we did. We came back to Utah, stayed with family while I was finishing up getting my license. And really, like I said earlier, because I dropped out, and one of the requirements to get a license is that you have to have a high school diploma or GED, and I'd never gone back and done that. And so a lot of it was hinging on the board approving my application, which, thankfully for us, they were able to look at our scenario, and I wrote them a letter and was as candid as I could have been about what happened and why I didn't finish, and then attached some references, some really good references I'd had throughout my career, and kind of highlighted that even though I had this stumbling block, I've done this much for the real estate community already by helping the VA and helping some of these other clients get rid of their foreclosure portfolio and putting families into it. And they were gracious enough to grant me my license, but we came back and we were staying with family, just hoping that worked. I mean, it was a total leap of faith. Total.
Got to hand it to you.
Yeah.
We have a lot of students that come through, and they'll have these expectations, these ideals that right when they get their license and they get into the industry, clients come, they start selling homes, but they don't really, not a lot of them understand the nature that being all commission, you've got to have something to sustain you while you work this and build it, and that there is a building process. And it sounds like that was, you expected that because you cashed out. Did it take longer than you thought it would to start building that up?
It did, yeah. Yeah, I think I got my license in July and didn't have my first closing until, I want to say it was September, end of August, September.
So a few months.
And it was a really small one. But it was enough. It was enough to just keep it going, to really keep your head above water as you keep building.
So you got your license. Where'd you end up?
So I ended up in Brand Life. So one of the things we did is we said, okay, so like if I could give any advice to new agents, I came into it with a ton of experience, and there was still a lot of things that I didn't know. And so I'm a big fan of teams. I'm a big fan of mentorship.
Okay.
So if you don't have the money to go out and hire a mentor, there's a ton of real estate mentors all over the place, but may not have money to walk into a mentorship program, but you can walk into a solid team where you can learn and you can absorb their information, because once you get out of school, there's so much information that you get, and now it's okay, I know so much, but now how do I practically apply it?
Right.
And one of the worst things about real estate if you go full-time is that you have enough free time to hang yourself, and you can start getting distracted by all these things that maybe you couldn't do when you had a full-time job, right? Like, so for me, I could never just do the laundry on a Wednesday. But now I could if I needed something done, or mow the lawn midweek, things like that. Or a new movie comes out you're excited for, and you're like, oh, I can go see it. Whereas when you had a job, you were structured.
Right.
As an agent, you're not structured. You can get out of it. So the thing that I said is that I felt like I had been conditioned to really kind of accept, almost like that caged feeling where getting through a 9-to-5 day was no problem for me. When I first got into working, I remember just always looking at the clock like, oh, it's been 2 hours. How has it only been 2 hours? But over time, it felt normal to be in the office from 8, 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 or 6 at night. So the most important thing for me was to come back and to leverage some of my contacts in the business to find a good team that I could go be a part of, and I could start learning, and I could basically just start becoming a modeler. And I could say, okay, if I can take the skills that I have, if I can take the information that I've learned and I can model somebody who's successful, then I can duplicate their same results, just like if I was baking a cake. If they give me the recipe and I follow the recipe, I can be successful.
Okay.
So I adopted that philosophy and joined a team down at Rand Life, where one of the agents I had worked with at Green River Capital, my wife had worked with her at Green River Capital for a little while, a couple of years before, and we came in and we basically walked into her playbook and just said, yeah, we'll be a sponge, whatever you need me to do, I'll do, and just watched what she was doing.
So you say you learned a lot. There was this learning curve, obviously with procedural elements of the job and kind of how to do your job, but was there a single or maybe a couple very potent learning experiences that you had as a new agent that either for negative or positive, you step back and you're like, wow, this is how it's done, or this is what I need to do?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of negative ones. I think one of the first ones is having your heart broken. That's one of the first.
What do you mean by that?
Spending a lot of time with somebody that ends up buying a new build.
Yeah.
Or they call you up excited that they found a for sale by owner without you. Or I had one buyer I was working with that had to do a rapid rescore to qualify. They had a payment go late. They were upset with the lender, who was my lender, so then they were upset with me. And this was a client who I'd taken out maybe for 2 months. I had a meniscus tear in my knee fixed. I went out and took them out to see homes the next day after getting knee surgery, and kind of hobbled around up and down trying to find the Supra.
So you're invested.
Yeah, physically invested and emotionally invested. And it was that one thing that they lumped me in with the lender and they walked away. And that's a lot of it. So it's funny because I would talk to my wife a lot and say, until you really learn to just, like, it's okay to be sad about that, right? It's okay to have your heart broken. And that's why I say that it's a heartbroken feeling, because you get excited and you think you've built some rapport and you realize that even your best friend will buy from somebody else if the timing is perfect for that scenario. So when I was a kid, I kind of got used to it, because when I was 18, one of my paths to try to make money, since I didn't go the conventional route, I was selling cars. I sold cars for 3 months and only ended up selling like 2 or 3 cars. But I remember I was working at Larry H. Miller down at the Auto Mall, and my best friend showed up after I'd been there for like 2 weeks to show me his new car. What are you doing? This is... And he came to show me his new car, and it blew me away. And that's when I realized, though, that it wasn't anything against me. It's just like, I've got a great real estate coach down in Arizona, and he makes a comment. He says, your own mom will forget that you sell real estate. Yeah. And it's true. Because what I found going into it, one of the hardest things to overcome is that people see you, they've locked, like your close associations, they've locked into a period of time, and that's how they see you. And the biggest example is my wife's mom said to her one time, we were late for something, and she said, oh, you're always late. She said, Kim, you're always late. And Kim said, I haven't been late in the last 7 years, because one of my big things is I'm always on time. I see being on time as a sign of respect. Like, you show up on time no matter what. And it was so funny that, because previous to us being married, my wife was late to everything. And so her mom had fixed in her mind that she's always late, even though 7 years later, she wasn't late anymore, and she isn't late. And so I looked at that there are people that still see me as the waiter, or there's still people who see me as the dropout, or the person that just started the new multi-level marketing company and now called them excited saying, I can save you on energy, right? It doesn't matter that I went out and had 7 years experience and sold 10,000 houses as an REO agent, as an asset manager. Doesn't matter. They still see me pigeonholed into that. And that was one of the hardest things to overcome, is to realize that you have family and you have this sphere of influence that even though you've gotten your license and the class, when you get through with class and you go through the 120 hours, you know so much. Like it's an incredibly intense, detailed course. Anybody who goes through is competent to go sell real estate. But your close circles will still see you as a person that didn't do that. They still may see it, if you've got a history of kind of jumping from job to job, they may see it as this is just another fluke. They don't realize the time investment and the money investment. And that was one thing I had to overcome, and realize that people only see you in that regard, and so it's going to break your heart a little bit until you actually go out and prove yourself.
So I'm sure people are wondering, especially those that might be new, how do you break out of that? How did you break out of that, or have you? I mean, I'm sure there's still residuals on that.
Not so much anymore. I think that I'm trying to say, I mean, most people now, whenever they see me, they ask me how real estate is.
Okay.
And I'm going to credit that back to my coach from Arizona. He's a friend of mine. So Joshua Smith was one of the top. He was a 30 under 30 agent, sells a ton. His team does $100 million a year down in Arizona. And like I said, you find mentors, you find people that you can relate to. And he said people have to know you, like you, trust you, know what you do. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't believe in a work-life balance. He doesn't believe in a separation. And then one thing I don't believe in, like I'm really big into social media and leveraging Facebook and like Realtor.com and Zillow and things like that, and reviews for leads and for more business and for social validation. But I don't go on and post every time I close a house. I don't go on and post every time I don't want it to be overkill for people. And that's kind of the philosophy I took after going through Josh, is that there is no separation. I'm always doing real estate. I'm always an agent. So whenever I tag something or whenever I have a conversation with family, it's always real estate first, and then it's everything else second.
Interesting.
So if I take the family to the zoo, it's taking a break from showing homes today to take my family to the zoo. Please let me know if you need anything, barbershop homes, right? And you tag it. And whenever I meet with family and they say, the generic, hey, how's everything going? Oh, it's so fantastic. We're working with some great buyers. And so I make sure that I'm always dropping some kind of statement or comment that basically says, I sell real estate. Constantly, I sell real estate. So then that will start leading to people asking questions and starting to basically put out feelers. Well, how's the market? What's the market going to do? And the one thing I learned is I've learned two things. You never BS. If you don't know, one of the worst things you can do is you can lie, right? People see through it, and you've got to remember what lies you told.
Learned that the hard way.
And I think that's one thing to point out to new agents too. I've seen this constantly, is that someone will come out as a new agent and they'll think they have to know everything, and so they start making it up. You can say, I don't know. But it's how you follow up, and now you can actually prove yourself. What year, if one of the biggest ones is, why are they moving? You don't know. Most people don't call and say, why are you moving? That's a great question. I don't know. I'll find out for you. And now you have a chance to show them how professional you are, because you follow up, and it invites you to do some follow-up with them. When you call back and say, hey, Tom, I talked to the family. They actually got transferred out of state, so they need to sell by this and this and this date. So you're showing that you're professional. You can follow up, as opposed to, oh, yeah, they're building a new house. Right? Or even ones where you walk into a house and they say, oh, are they still living here? And a knee-jerk reaction is no or yes. It's easy. It's okay to say, yeah, I don't know. Looks like it's staged. I don't know. Find out. But then you have to watch out. It's funny because it's a fine line, because you can't say I don't know about everything. So if you do, you don't know anything. So the number one thing is, you can get by with 80% information, but you have to know something. You really have to know something about the market. And one of the best things that agents can do, a new agent, this is what I believe, you have to completely immerse yourself, and you basically have to become obsessed about your business. And it's okay to be obsessed about it. We're working on straight commission, so we have the opportunity to make a fortune, and we also have the ability to crash and burn.
And that's really the difference between a job and a profession, in my opinion. Make it a profession, and those behaviors, that obsession, that constant research, that learning should be second nature.
It should. So here's the difference. If you and I are with family and friends and somebody says to me, they say, so what's the market like? They're a seller. They're just filling it out, right? Let's say they live in Layton. We both live in Layton. So they come out and they say, hey, what's the market doing? Market's it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There's a lot of buyers, not a lot of inventory. Well, I've just told them everything that anybody else can tell them, and it's the same stuff that they're seeing on the news and in the media. But if you can come out and say, you know, we're not seeing as many homes listed, but the advantage we're seeing is that we've seen a 6% increase just in Layton. And I was at a conference the other day, and they say we expect to see 6 to 8% again in Davis County over the next 12 months. So it's fantastic. I didn't have to do anything extra outside of attend a conference and pay attention.
Right.
And now I can give them information. So the minute that I tell them that, I'm the pro now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't just say it's good. I gave them some information. Same thing with showing a home. I don't have to know where the seller's going. I don't have to know all this detail. But if I can walk in and before they ask me a question, I can say, okay, so this house was built in 1928. It's 3,200 square feet, almost finished up and down. You'll notice that there's an unfinished portion of the basement. I give them enough information to say I know what I'm doing, walk through the house, ask, and then let me just answer questions.
Right.
So
it sounds to me like you're saying constantly inform that you're a real estate agent and then set yourself apart when the opportunities conversations come up.
Yeah, I believe that that's a big key, but then also noticing like one of the biggest things that people can do is pay attention to what's working and what's not working. And I think we've all ran into this. Watch your language patterns, like one-upping somebody, right? If it's almost second nature that we're so, not from a narcissistic standpoint, but we're so focused on ourselves. It seems like that if you come and you tell me about what a hard day you had or a car breaking down, there's a lot of times the knee-jerk reaction for me is to say, oh man, the other day this happened to me and I want to make my story worse than yours. You're not telling me to find out if mine was worse. You're telling me because this happened to you and you almost want to either share it, get it off your chest, or you have a question about something. So the main thing that I've had to learn is that you detach from that and let people finish talking and let people finish telling the story. So if someone's asking me about real estate and I start giving an answer, I start watching. Maybe they were just being courteous. How's real estate going? And I start going into a whole spiel and they start looking around the room. No problem. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Real estate's great. We're blessed. But if they're leaning in and they're actually listening, then I start giving them more information. So yeah, you have to know stuff. You have to stay in your industry, and it's not hard to do. You can sign up for newsletters, find mentors, coaches, go watch YouTube videos. There are hundreds of podcasts with top agents that you can just hop on. Have you ever heard the term net time, no extra time?
I have not.
So one of the first things I learned to do as an agent is I stopped listening to the radio, stopped watching the news because it's all just negative.
Yeah.
If you watch the news in this economy, or in fact, you know, it's in any economy, the world's going to end. Right? And I remember in 2008, 2009, we were selling REO, and the whole stigma was nobody can buy a house, right? Real estate agents are going to lose it. Well, there were some that were making a fortune. They were selling REO homes. They had learned to adapt and go to a new model. And there were investors that came out of the woodwork and had cash to buy houses to sit on them. So depending on what your beliefs are, one person, the economy was falling apart. Another, everybody was cashing in. So stop listening to news, stopped watching the news, stop listening to the radio as much as possible, because when you really get down, you don't realize what subconscious images are going into your head, because a lot of rock and roll songs, they're really like self-deprecating. Songs like I'm a loser, like you don't realize what they're saying, but then if you hear it over and over again in your head, you're filling your glass with dirty water.
So you're cutting out everything and you're going right to the professional stuff.
Yeah, I listen to Tony Robbins in the car when I'm driving around. I listen to Darren Hardy, who wrote The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, because you have to see yourself as you're a business owner. Right? And you have to understand that. The entrepreneur, so Darren Hardy, I met him in Texas. He was the founder of Success, not the founder, he was the editor of Success Magazine. And he was a real estate agent. And so some of the gems that he points out when he talks about being an agent in San Francisco are fantastic. But he wrote The Compound Effect. And he was the first person I ever came across that said, success is hard. And one of the most important things, success is boring. Like being an agent, I don't want to discourage anybody, but 90% of the time it's very boring. Like when I'm sitting at my computer going through the MLS, looking at the same house over and over again, or sending a hot sheet or an automated search or a text or making a call to somebody who's not responding to me, it's boring. You're just sitting at your desk. But then 10% of it is a lot of fun when I'm actually helping people sell a house, or I'm helping them buy a house, and then that's where you make your money. Well, Darren Hardy actually wrote a book, Compound Effect, where he says, look, success is boring, but it's the things you do every single day that start compounding over time. So I listen to his CD when I'm driving. I listen to podcasts where top agents are interviewed. I don't always agree with them, but I love hearing their mindset. I love hearing their mentality. So I'm always trying to dump as much good stuff in as I can, or even listening to comedy CDs, because how you show up matters.
Yeah.
Right?
State of mind.
I don't want to get out of the car and I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I want to get out, finish laughing at something or having had some great insight.
So, as you break the mold here with what people are used to associating you with, that past job, that past life, and you have your heartbreaks, and you're going about this in your first year of real estate, was there ever a time where you really questioned if you were making the right decision?
Oh yeah, I think there were 3 or 4 times when I would. Yeah, I updated my resume at
Especially
one point.
after you cash in your 401k and you're
you
on
got 3 kids and insurance is about to run out. Yeah, no, I uploaded my resume a couple times, and then I really stepped back and I thought, here's the biggest thing for me. I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? Like, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen? I could go bankrupt. That's the worst thing. Could use up all the credit cards. Could have no income coming in. I could go bankrupt. Could I survive? Could I rebound from that? And the answer was yes. I could go back to Texas. I could go be an REO agent. It would take a while, but as an asset manager, I had enough experience I could walk back into it. But the upside was I could live the dream. I spent, like, one of the biggest things for me is I spent 7 years behind a desk all day feeling like I was wasting my potential. I was so good at my job, I would finish in 2 or 3 hours, and then I'd spend the rest of the day just surfing the web. And my wife felt it because I'd go home every day and I'd say, I'm just wasting this time. And I saw all these agents out there that, no offense to them, but they were doing incredibly well. And I'd look at them and say, you're no better than me. You just have more guts. You're just a little braver than I am. And that was really hard for me to stomach. So through the ups and downs, even on the down part, there's never been a period of time where I said, I shouldn't be doing this. Even when it's down and things look like it's like the most stressful business you'll run into, and it's the most beautiful business in the world too. So yeah, there was a lot of doubt at one point. And then I was getting ready to submit a resume. I had updated it. And that's when I asked myself the question. I said, if I do this, we're worse off than when we left. Like, let's take a chance. We can do this. Just take a deep breath. It's okay. These are just nerves. And then whenever I get in that situation, because even now I'll get into that situation, I have 11 deals in the pipeline that will close in May. And I still will sit at my desk and say, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. This is crazy. We got awards all on the wall, and I'll look at them, I'll say, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then you have to take a deep breath, and you have to say, that's just an old pattern. I can do this. Right. I've done this. I know what I'm doing. It's fine. So I don't think that ever goes away, and I don't think you ever want it to go away, because the minute it goes away, you're not hungry anymore, and you stop working.
You kind of lose the edge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So let's pay some respect to your award a little bit. So you became aware of it when you were at Rand Life, and then you shortly moved to Coldwell, where you are now, right? Right after. And so this was something that you looked at, you admired that your predecessor over at Rand Life had already earned and achieved, and you got hungry for it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because I think it's one of the best industries because we can get validation. And we live our life so much watching pop stars and movie stars and athletes get awards and accolades, and we don't have that in our own life. And I didn't want to be, like, I've received participation certificates before, and that's really no fun. Yeah. But yeah, there was something about it when I saw the people who had won. It really, like, it challenged me. Yeah. To say, can you do this? Right. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things I learned in real estate was detaching from the outcome. Like, if I'm so focused every day on how much I'm going to earn, and that's all I focus on, I miss doing those things we talked about with the compound effect. I miss the daily activities that make me successful. So I went into it in January with the misunderstanding. I thought it was all for the 12 months, but I said, okay, what do I think I have to do in real estate to get Rookie of the Year? What would I have to do this year? And I said, if I do 50 units, I think that would lock it up.
So did you know the requirements?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
So you're just guessing. All right.
I said, I can't imagine. I think I had looked at Wes's numbers, but I looked at him for the full year, not for the first 12 months, and he had done like 49 or something like that. And I said, okay, so if I do 50, I'm in the conversation. That's what I need. That's what I want. So January, I actually put 50. I made myself just a little crappy calendar that was printed out of Word, and it had a checkbox for 50, and it said, I'm going to help 50 families this year. And so the mindset was, I'm going to help families. I wasn't worried about selling units. It was, I'm going to help 50 families. I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to help 50 families. And then once I had the outcome set up, I detached from that, and I said, okay, that's great. I'm not going to look at that anymore. What do I have to do every single day to make this happen?
Interesting.
And if I check those off, just like you're a fit guy, right? But you don't go in to the gym every day saying, here's exactly what I'm going to look like. You focus on the daily things. Mm-hmm. I need to eat this meal. I need to have this pre-workout. I need to have this workout. I need to be this intense. I need to do this much recovery. I need this much sleep. These are all processes to get to the ultimate outcome. So with the real estate, that's what I did. I said, look, there's some main things I have to do. Every day I have to look for my active buyers. I have to make sure they're set up on hot sheets. I have to make sure they're logging into my system. I have to make sure I'm posting on social media and blending work-life. I have to make sure that I'm following up on contracts, that I'm scheduling homes, that I'm touring homes when I don't have, so I had this list of 10 things I have to do every single day to be successful, and then I just did them.
Now, in this process, you're a new agent. I mean, you're only in a few months here, and to figure out what you need to do, all the hot sheets, all the buyer leads, and develop what you're doing is developing systems, right? Mm-hmm. Daily systems that you're doing. To develop these, are you asking people in your office? Are you looking for mentors? Or are you just butting your head against the wall trying to figure all of this out on your own?
That's a good question. No, I'm a huge fan of modeling and finding mentors, so I found a mentor.
Okay.
So Joshua Smith in Arizona has a boot camp that he runs out. And one of the most important things that I got from the boot camp was his numbers, how he tracks his numbers and how he looks at them. And 95% of the people that come into his pipeline are going to disappear. They're not going to do anything, but he knows that for every 47 Facebook leads he generates, he has one closing.
Okay.
Right? And that he has to make 500 dials to get an appointment, to get a closing. So he has the numbers, and I just simply took his information and then said, okay, let me put that over on my side and see what my numbers are. Uh-huh. And then once I knew what my numbers were, it actually allows you to calm down.
Yeah.
Like if I go out and I have a bad showing, I've had showings where, because a lot of my stuff comes from, a lot of my leads, as I was building my portfolio, a lot of it is generated from online. So I'm meeting someone for the first time and I have to sell myself to them right away. And I've had days where I go out and it's garbage from the get-go. There's something they don't like about me. Uh-huh. I'm stumbling over words. I'm just not present. Something's happening. But once I started tracking my numbers and understanding what I had to do, I knew that I could let it go.
Right.
Right? And I could take a breath and say, hey, look, I know that out of 10 people that I meet, 3 people are going to want to work with me. That's okay.
It becomes more of a game than life and death.
Yeah, because the numbers don't lie, right? The solution is always the math. You can't get away from it. So I followed that model. I followed Josh's model, but he's in Arizona. He's in a different market. So trying to implement some of his strategies with Facebook were a little more challenging here. So then I started just noticing what I was doing and really looking at what the results were that I was getting, and then that's what I could focus on for the numbers.
So you start implementing all this, the snowball starts rolling, you start rolling. Now when you're selling, are you rolling your money back into your business?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are living minimally, still on your 401k, but you're rolling your closings in and building this thing up.
Yeah, yeah, we are. So it's funny because we really took a different approach too. So we almost went through the buy-in process twice. So taking the big step to move from Texas, we started going through our savings. Well, right as we start making money with the team that we're on, we decided that we don't want to be on the team anymore.
Okay.
And so we step out again.
Okay.
And for the first 2 months, we were still, like every deal that came through the door, I was paying back old marketing and things we had with the other people. So all the credit cards that we were fortunate enough to pay off were now maxed back out. Yeah. And so
so you're popping the clutch.
Yeah.
A little bit forward, but it's not going
Everything
anywhere.
was going back in. And I think that's one of the challenges too. And I've had that conversation as you get into it, like you've got to be willing to invest.
Yeah.
I think so. And whether you want to go heavy or not, like I've got a friend in Texas that was talking to me about Zillow leads. And I've never really had success with them, but he was talking about the brokerage that he's with is a little old school. They like doing it all traditional, door knockers, things like that. And he said, but they'll throw $200 a month at Zillow leads. And I told him, I said, well, they don't plan on doing anything with it then, because that's not enough to generate enough chances to show if it's going to be lucrative or not. It's really not. And that's where our commitment was saying, look, I'm a huge fan of modeling, but I'm also a huge fan of finding people to do what I don't know how to do, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you and I had to sit here and take all these tapes now and cut a video, it'd be pretty difficult. But fortunately, we've got a smart guy in the room that knows how to do this.
Right.
So we leverage his experience.
Yep.
That's what I do with all my leads. If I'm not great at marketing and I'm learning, most of my money goes back into that marketing to have people who know what they're doing market as I'm learning to do it for myself with a lot of trial and error. Like I run Facebook ads that get a ton of clicks and no leads. That's okay because I'm learning that system as I'm also buying these avenues to see which one's working.
Yeah.
And we built that up really slowly, my wife and I. So we said, okay, we have $1,000 going out. We're turning this really well, right? It's easy for, if I can go see somebody, chances are they're going to want to work with me. And this is kind of jumping all over, but if you have new agents that are insecure about what's going to happen and they don't have that internal confidence yet, find the numbers. If they find the numbers, not even just like the systems that we talk about, but there's information out there where MIT has done studies and they say if you call a new lead within 5 minutes, you're 900 times more likely to get them if you wait 10 minutes. I don't need any of my own data to know that. So if I look at that and I get a new lead, I say, great, I'm confident. If I talk to them, I've got a good shot at getting them. There's also details that come out that say like 66% of people don't interview more than one agent for a listing. So I just got to get that listing appointment, and then I've just got to show up, because if I show up, I've got a 66% chance of landing this listing, right? Same thing with buyers. People aren't shopping around. They may appear to, but they're really not. Most people are sticking with the first person they meet, so all I've got to do is show up. I've got to be the first one to get there. So when I look at my business, any leads that come from Realtor.com, I've got to be the first person to call. I've got to be the first person to show up, and then I just sit back, let my personality take over, and just answer questions and be a good buyer's agent.
Yeah. So, and this is what I really appreciate about agents like you, is you're not studying the traditional sales tactics and closing strategies as much as you're studying your business.
Right.
You're studying how to be a business owner, you're studying what it's going to take, and you're implementing those strategies. Yep. So in implementing this and you become Rookie of the Year, let me ask you, what was your sales volume for this award?
12 million.
12 million. How many transactions is that? 12
million in my first 12 months. It was, I want to say it was 41 transactions.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's where it got a little diluted because I put the numbers together. Oh, maybe it was 38. It was right around there because my focus, it's so funny, I was so focused on the first 12 months, like my 12 month, that
the first actual 12 months from getting licensed.
Yeah, the first 12. Well, no, I was focused on my first full year.
First calendar year.
So every time the number stuck in my head of the first calendar year, it was 15 million, just over 15 million the first calendar year after I got my license, 51 units.
Okay.
Yeah. The first for Rookie of the Year, I really think it was like 38 units, something like that.
Okay.
For 12, I know it was 12 million.
All right, so when you get to that level and you look back now, you had your coach and you've stressed how much that has helped you, but as far as what you did yourself, whatever you implemented or whatever your style was, what would you pin down was the most driving factor towards your success in that?
No, good question. So, and one thing to point out about the coaches too is I didn't follow most of the stuff. I just had somebody that was a reference that this is.
You were a rebel student?
It was like I kept trying to master Facebook and I just couldn't do it. So I was picking up these little pieces and I was trying to master mega open houses, and my open houses are disastrous. And they're good now, but they were disastrous. So basically said a couple things. The mindset is Fitch. Like everybody that I've ever helped is in my phone as a Fitch. It's a family I can help. So I said I'm going to stop looking at people as a paycheck, and I'm going to look at them as somebody that I can help. And that led me to say that our core, like my wife especially, our core driving belief is that we'll do everything it takes to make sure that this is a great experience for you. So what that meant was if we had a new lead and had to leave, like I've literally driven down to the Cheesecake Factory with her to meet some friends, dropped her off, turned around, drove right back to Layton to meet a new lead. Like we said, she basically said, I'll be with the kids. If you have to go, go. And the first year to get Rookie of the Year, I put 45,000 miles on my car.
Jeez.
Because if I had a shot at any borrower, if it was in Payson, I'd go to Payson. If it was in Grantsville, I'd go to Grantsville. And I'd go anywhere I could. And then once I got there, the philosophy was anything it takes to make you happy. So I never talked anybody into a house. If they were having reservations and they were unsure about it, I would explain to them why it wasn't a good deal. I would confirm that.
So you're really you are crediting your success on this very connective, I don't want to say humanitarian, but a very human emotion approach to your sales.
Yeah, I would, if it wasn't working for them, I would rather them not buy with me than to buy with me and have a bad experience and ever look at me in a negative way.
Yeah, very cool.
It's just not worth it. So it's come to cost us sometimes, but I think that the law of reciprocation too has been really great. I've like by no means, I'm probably incredibly flawed on some of my follow-up, especially prior to closing. Like not doing the final walkthrough, I don't do many, because I trust people.
Yeah.
And so I trust that if something is supposed to be done, it's going to be done. And I had a situation where I sold a house in Layton, and it closed in November, and the sellers were supposed to fix the water heater that was kind of rusted, and they never did. So the family moved in. I went over to see how the house was going, and it was ice cold. We had a home warranty on it. We called them. They couldn't get out for 4 or 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my buyer. So I don't even know how much I spent. I bought a new water heater for them and had somebody go out, service it, and put it in, and took that on the chin as saying I should have followed up, and it was 100% my fault, but I'm going to make this experience good for them still. And then 2 months later, I got a call from their parents who were moving into town who bought a $330,000 house for me. Because you do the right thing. You always do the right thing. I would rather make zero money on this deal and do the right thing.
Right. It's interesting. I will teach the agency classes here, and within agency law is the doctrine that agency is terminated when the subject matter, whatever you were hired to do, is done. So for real estate, you go to closing, you are no longer the agent now. As a matter of law, that relationship has been terminated. But this human element here, you almost continue it on, not in this agency relationship, but to you, they're more than clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually miss people when we get done. Like we've had conversations before where I'll tell somebody this, I'm sad that we found the right house for you because I'm not going to see you anymore. Yeah. But I've had people that I've been working with for a year, that I'll work with them for a year and go out every couple weeks and see 2 or 3 homes, and it's not the right one. And it's amazing how they feel like they'll apologize to me. I'm so sorry we're so picky. No, be picky. This is your house.
Right.
And there's a difference between having unrealistic expectations and being picky.
Yeah.
An under $200,000 completely remodeled house with granite, that's unrealistic. But wanting to find the right home in the right school district with the right bedroom, bathroom count that you feel comfortable in, absolutely. Let's be picky. Let's find that house.
Yeah. Good call. So as we get into the final stretch here, let's talk about, because this is a good transition into success and how you view it. What you've implemented these systems in your business. You have, it sounds to me like you're, figuring out the Facebook, you're figuring out the marketing, but you really have what you do down during the day, almost into what I'm presuming a regimented schedule almost with some time blocking, unless of course clients come in. Is that how you're looking at your daily schedule, that you've got tasks to do and you have time allocated for them?
Yeah, originally I tried doing the time block. There's a great one that's a 60-90 time block all throughout the day that you spend 60 minutes doing your admin stuff, doing the transaction coordinator thing, following up on offers submitted, and then you have 90 minutes where you're doing your sales calls and your door knocking or whatever you're doing.
Right,
That
your
it's within that 90.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found for my business, mine is it's 100% go, and we've had, my wife Kim and I, we've tried to hire some transaction coordinators and some admins that just can't do our schedule, because really we have said that, like fortunately our kids are young, but we've said there's an opportunity in real estate like no other opportunity. 1 year after getting my license, I made 4 times what I made at BRM as one of the top guys.
Right.
It's an unparalleled opportunity for people to come and make money, and not just make money, but impact lives.
Right.
Like unfortunately, there's shady people out there. And we get a chance to go in and actually give someone a good experience, help them with the biggest decision they're ever going to make, and we get paid incredibly well to do it. And so Kim and I looked at that and said, it's the perfect scenario. We're going to hit this as hard as we can, as long as we can. So for me, I work 7 days a week. Doesn't mean I'm in the office every day for 7 days a week. So mine's been modified to say I have to do these things every day. I have to do A, B, C, D. If I get those done, it's a successful day.
Okay.
That allows me to actually walk away from the business and enjoy time with the family, because I know that my auto drips are set up, my hot sheets are set up, I've sent my text messages, I've talked to my buyers, I've followed up on offers. Because there's, like the main thing I look at this business is, this is lifestyle design. That's the most beautiful thing about real estate. I work with agents that I can't schedule a showing on their house after 5 o'clock because they don't work after 5 o'clock. And I can't get a hold of them on Sunday because they don't work Sundays. Mm-hmm. Somebody can call me at 3 in the morning, I'll answer the phone politely and say, hi, how are you?
Yeah.
Like, what can I do for you? But that's a choice I made. That's my lifestyle, to say, this is what I'm going to do. So there's no I didn't want to get so rigid in the time blocks because I wanted to be able to free flow and be able to respond and go out and do a showing and take a showing right away and be ready for it. So I just have key things I have to do every day. And then I have a rhythm register that I keep on my desk that if I'm checking these boxes off every day, I know I'm successful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and I were talking before the interview about our morning routines.
Yeah.
What part does that play in your daily schedule, and what part do you think it plays into your success?
I think it's a huge. The morning routine is one of the most important aspects because you prime yourself,
Okay.
and you do it correctly. So in this business, we can get so caught up and we can get so distracted that we don't control much of our time.
Uh-huh.
And I found the only thing I could control was the morning. Okay. So I had read a lot about it. I'd heard, one of my favorite mentors is Rogers Healy, is a friend of mine in Dallas. He's 30. He just turned 37. His company does over $1 billion a year in sales. They're the number one team in Dallas. He gets up. He goes to the gym every morning at 5:30. And he goes, I hate working out at 5:30, but I go because you know who goes at 5:30? Mark Cuban. And he starts naming off all these big people that he's met by being in the gym at 5:30 in the morning. He goes, successful people get up and they're in control of their day.
Yeah.
So for me, what I started doing was I take it as an opportunity where it gets very stressful having kids at home. And in real estate, I don't know how you feel about it, but I always feel like I'm like one deal away from everything falling apart, right? Like
one deal away from chaos?
Yeah, like I've listed this house. I finally beat a whole bunch of other buyers to get them the perfect house. But if this falls apart, they're not going to list with me, and I'm going to lose both sides, all the work that went into it, all the money for marketing. It's very stressful. So I take this time to wake up. I listen to good meditation music. I'm a big Tony Robbins fan. I've been to the fire walk, and I've walked across the coals and done all that stuff. So it's a simple daily prime. It's 3 minutes of gratitude where you're grateful for your heart, you're grateful for your body, you're grateful to have systems. Like we take for granted the fact that we can walk and we can see and we can hear and we're intelligent. And so it's just 3 minutes a day just stopping and saying, yes, I'm incredibly goal driven, but let me just take 3 minutes and just be grateful for everything that I have. Mm-hmm. And so I do that, and then I spend 3 to 6 minutes picturing the day and seeing myself meeting with families, seeing myself helping them, seeing myself overcoming a challenge, interacting with different agents, and just progressing forward. See myself with my kids, being patient with them, see myself helping my wife out. So it's really envisioning my day beforehand, and then I'll read for 20, 30 minutes, and then start doing all my buyer searches first thing in the morning, so that no matter what happens in the day, the most important thing I did is I took care of the people I'm working with.
You've mentioned your wife and your kids several times as we've talked. How do you, because this is a big issue for a lot of agents, both current veterans and that are still working on this, and the new agents that don't really understand what to expect or they have a rough idea. How do you manage the work-life balance? You told me your coach was not like a big fan of this. Yeah. It was probably all work. So how was your life?
Yeah, you have to have a partner that supports it, and you have to be on the same page with the goals. Like that's the biggest thing. If Kim wasn't committed to the goals that we set for the real estate business, we wouldn't be able to do it. But I also think you're looking at what's the most important thing, right? Like there's a hierarchy of success and values, and if the number one thing I'm driven after is success, then 9 times out of 10, I'm going to choose a showing over my family. If family is my number one priority, then I'm going to choose a family over the showing. So it's just understanding what's important to you. I have a great partner. Like she's actually come to me because I say that sometimes. I've said to her, I I feel like I should be home more, because I'll go, if I allow myself to, I'll stay in the office all day, all night, looking at new systems and new things that I can do, and how can I automate this, and how could I start bringing on a team, and how I could stay there forever. And she always brings me back and says, we decided to do this. We set up a plan. Now we're executing the plan, right? We have an opportunity to go out. And I hope this doesn't come off as arrogant, but we have an opportunity to make so much money in the next 5 to 10 years that we can live the life that we want to the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it's real estate.
And
there's no ceiling.
There is none.
Yeah.
So it's more important for us to do that, to have that for the kids, and so we make those sacrifices. And fortunately for me, I've got a great partner who will make that sacrifice with me.
Yeah.
And she's licensed, so if it ever comes down to it and I need to be home, or if I'm feeling burned out, she steps right in and she goes out and does the showing for me.
Very cool.
Yeah, she's great.
When you look back over your first stint here, over the course of your award and the year, what has been maybe one of the bigger setbacks that has taught you, it may have been, it sucked going through it, but looking back now, maybe you think, that has made me where I am right now?
Yeah, I think that probably the number one thing is getting comfortable. And then also, and it's so funny because these are all kind of like metaphorical things, but the mental block is the biggest one. There's a point where I started putting so many deals together that I stopped and I sat back and said, I shouldn't be making this much money. Like I grew up in a blue collar family, so.
And people think that's crazy when they hear it, but a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
That fear of success is really more of a drive than fear of failure sometimes.
It really is. Like I've never been taboo about money, and I notice that a lot of people are. But one thing that changed in my life was starting to be around people who were successful. And one of my close friends, Jeff Rossi, is a huge commercial agent here in Utah. And I'll never forget talking to him one day and looking at his volume and going over and seeing his house. I'm like, this was my best friend growing up. I know who he is. I'm the same guy as he is. And this is before we even started selling. We'd just come back. Another kid I grew up with, Jeff Morgan at Academy Mortgage, his team does $100 million a year. And this is somebody I grew up with. John Dowdle is with Destination Homes out in Daybreak, $20 million a year. And so I started, first off, eliminating these doubts by saying, these are people that I know that have been successful just because they just stuck with it. But you still run into that, because I remember the first time I had a big month, I had heard this, and it's so funny what we set up in our minds, but somebody in Dallas was a mortgage broker, and I went to the gym with them, and they were talking about the best month they ever had. They made $35,000. And I just couldn't fathom what you would do with 35. Like, that's unreal, $35,000. And he said, yeah, I worked all month, probably the worst month of my life. I don't know if I could ever do it again, but I loved having the check. And I thought, it's almost impossible. So last April, after my split, my commissions were $58,000 for 1 month.
Jeez.
And I remember sitting back and saying, this isn't right. This isn't real. And it put the brakes on. It really put the brakes on, because all of a sudden now I was very uncomfortable, because in 1 month I'd made more than most people in my family ever made in a year.
Yeah.
I'd made in 1 month. And it's very uncomfortable. And so the adjustment that I had to make was to stop and sit back and say, look how many people I helped.
Yeah.
Look what I did. Most people wouldn't have taken the time to stay with this family for a year to find the right house. Most people wouldn't have driven 30 miles to show a $130,000 house, right? You have to get over that and say, look, you're in this business and there's a ton of money for doing a great job. If you can't handle that, then maybe this isn't the business, because you are going to make a lot of money. And it came very uncomfortable for me, so the business started going in waves. I'm very uncomfortable. This isn't right. Let's start giving some of this money away. Now I have nothing in the pipeline. Now I got to go back to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the biggest thing too, though, is looking at it and realizing that I'm taking huge risks, because everything's on me. The cards, like I have a team that helps with like transaction coordinating, things like that. I had a November once where the commissions were $9,000 for November, and I was talking to my dad, and he said, $9,000 for a month, that's fantastic. And I said, Dad, my payroll's $7,000. Like, that's not a good month. I've got transaction coordinators, I've got babysitters, I've got all this. Marketing, that's not a good month, that's not enough. But you don't get there overnight, right? Like I think Kim and I were terrified to spend our first $1,000 on online marketing. Okay, let's try it, $1,000. Oh, that's a car payment. And you're like, that's a house payment. We can't do this. And then start working. And then, okay, let's go to 2. Well, let's go to 3. All right, now we're too high. Let's back it down. But we kept rolling it. And so that's why I stress detaching from the outcome and focus on, if the money's too much, give it away. You can find great charities. We're starting to do things where we actually find families that we can help them. We'll anonymously help them with something. So like, you can do good with it. It doesn't have to be all about Porsches and things like that. Like, we can do really good stuff with it. But until you get comfortable with that, that's your biggest obstacle, is you. Always. Like the biggest setback for me was myself, every single time. That self-doubt, feeling like you're getting overpaid. One of the biggest things I had to overcome was feeling like you're lucky. That's one of the biggest ones, is I would go out and say, yeah, that's just luck. Until you look back and you're like, well, it's been lucky for 12 months. So obviously something's working. That's the biggest one. That's the biggest one, I think, because one of the unconventional things that I do is I don't sign a buyer broker until we write the offer. And I know that there's a lot of old school brokerages that have their scripts and they walk through the scripts on how to meet one time and go over and get them to sign that. But I tell people, if you don't want to work with me, if this doesn't fit, I don't want you to work with me. I'm going to put a ton of time and energy into helping you, but this is about you. This is your experience, not mine. So if you don't want to work with me, I don't want you to work with me. That was, like, that's one of the things to say, that's my confidence. That's my...
So, there's going to be people that watch this, and they're going to, there might be some people that have this epiphany. I think the same thing about money, and I've noticed myself getting these patterns. What would you advise? How did you break out of viewing money as this thing you don't deserve, this fear of success, these negative associations with status and money, because you come from the background that you do, you have the rules, the beliefs, the value system in place. What would you advise to help people out where they're struggling with the same kind of things?
That's a good question. I think the number one thing that you have to do is you have to start doing personal development. Like, really invest time in books, tapes, programs, mentors. Because
it's not behavioral.
This
is psychology.
It's all psychology, yeah. And I think the way that I looked at it, because I felt guilty for that, like I told you, my mom passed away 9 years ago, and at one point, I remember she was making $6 an hour and had to work 2 jobs to keep us clothed, and had a job at $6 an hour and $7 an hour. And then I actually, maybe this will help, because I actually had that conversation with my dad at one point. I said, I feel guilty that I make so much more money. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and said, I want you to make as much as you can. Be as successful as you can. That's what parents want for their kids.
Right.
They want us to succeed. People that love us want us to succeed, and it's not, money's an intangible thing. It's what we attach to it. Like, if we had billions of dollars stacked up here and we're the last people in the world, it would mean nothing. It's just paper.
Right.
It's what we attach to it. It's what it means to us and the feeling. And so I started looking at it by saying, this makes me a great provider for my family because I'm giving them options. I'm giving them opportunities. And with as much money as Kim and I have made, we live in a $240,000 house. I drive a Ford Edge, right? Like, there's nothing flashy. There's nothing flashy about it. Like I was telling you, I don't have a suit, right? I don't. And it's so funny because going to the Coldwell Banker Award ceremony, I had to go buy a tie that morning. And I've gone to Men's Warehouse. I actually think I went to Men's Warehouse to buy a tie and the shirt, because I was like, I usually wear a short sleeve polo and I need something more than that. But you detach from.
So this is a big change from when you were trying to buy an image.
Yeah.
You fundamentally changed how you think about success and money altogether.
Yeah, because you realize it's fake. There's so much of it that's fake. And I saw that in Dallas, that there's a lot of, in Dallas they have a term for it, the $30,000 millionaires. And you can lease a brand new, like I love Porsches, but they're very expensive. You can lease a brand new Porsche, and you can lease an apartment with some friends and look like you're rolling, and you're not. And I've seen that. I saw Dallas is a completely different world because everybody drives nice cars, and nobody believed me until they actually come visit me in Dallas. They're like, yeah, everybody drives nice cars. It's weird. People that are making no money are driving the nicest cars around. It's crazy. And it was so for me, it's really looking and saying, well, when I had that super nice car, I felt fake all the time. And when I go out now, I don't have to feel that. So it's more, like you said, it's the self-development. It's coming to terms with who you are, and also saying that, not being Stuart Smalley and saying I'm good enough and smart enough and all that, but realizing that if you want something, it's within your capacity to have it. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, then you deserve it. And if you deserve it, then celebrate it and enjoy it. It's okay. It's okay to enjoy it. Money doesn't have to turn you into a jerk. That's the biggest thing I thought, is it's going to change the way people think. It's going to change the way they behave with me. And at some point it will. Like, I'm always expected to pick up the tab when we go out to dinner and things like that, and that gets fairly expensive. But it doesn't change who you are at the end of the day. And I had heard this from an opposite side when I was broke, that money never fixes money problems because it's a behavior. And it's 100% true, right? So the number one thing I would tell people is you have to work harder on yourself than you work on anything else. Because you have to wake up every day and believe that you can do it, believe you deserve it, have motivation, have your why power, trust a system, and it's invisible. You know this, it's invisible most of the time. We are running a marathon that we don't know where the end is. And then all of a sudden the ending will just pop up, and right there we closed the deal. So yeah, build yourself. That's the number one way to get out of it.
Yeah, good. So, people are probably going to be watching this and thinking, okay, I'm getting what he's saying. Now I want to actually put the wheels to the road. what kind of technology, software systems do you rely on? Because I know everyone has access to hot sheets through the MLS.
Yeah.
So is there anything more that you would say, go get this and this, and you got to start here?
Yeah, I would. And I would actually have a disclaimer statement with that pick a system and then go with it. Pick a process and go with it. It's so easy in this business to be distracted by the next best thing. When we're investing time and money into a strategy and it doesn't pay off right away, it's easy now to see a Facebook ad where someone says, use my list to call expireds and for FSBOs, and then I jump over there. And then somebody else comes and says, if you're not marketing through Facebook, you're missing out. And I jump back over there. And now I'm trying to use their system and this system. At some point, you've got to say, this is what's right for me. Like, this is going to sound funny. I don't like being on the phone. It's very tough for me to be on the phone. So I like texting. So I look at a system that can do everything automated. There's a great system called Lion Desk that will actually allow you to text and put that in as part of your drips. But it doesn't have access to the MLS, so it doesn't send out, it doesn't have that IDX feed. So I went with Coldwell Banker because they have a system called InTouch. Any system with an IDX feed will work. I don't like sending people my MLS one because I want to drive them to my website to do my searches. So the number one that we use is Pro Agent Websites. I think that was started by a guy just up in Park City. And it's a really easy system to use. It's easy to go in, create an automated hot sheet, and then one of the beautiful things about it is you can see the activity. You can see what they've last viewed, when they last clicked. You can tell when they're online. And these are some great tools that you can use to build your business, to see what percentage of people are actually looking at this information. Is your email going right to spam? So for somebody just starting out, if you're really looking at cost as a concern, Pro Agent's like $80 a month, and it's a system that will get you a website, and then you can build drips into it too. You can't have people on more than one campaign, but you can build a drip. So after you put them in the system, you can have an email go out every 3 weeks just saying, hey, just wanted to check in, see how your home search is going. So there's this saying that says whoever's automated the most is the one that's going to win in business. Because I can have a bad day, you can have a bad day, and we cannot pick up the phone, we cannot do our daily searches. But once I set somebody up on an auto sheet, they're always getting it, right? It always works. So Pro Agents is a great one. I use InTouch because that's more with the Coldwell Banker, and it allows a lot more insight into who's actually opening email and what kind of response you're getting. And then you have a whole suite of campaigns that you can do, like seasonal campaigns, monthly market updates, things like that.
Gotcha.
So find a good system, a good CRM system that has an IDX feed. That would be the number one thing that you can set automatic drips up on. Almost every single one will let you do tasks, like Pro Agent will let you do tasks. I can't think of any that you can't set your own tasks up in. And then you just have to be committed to the tasks. Okay. So the number one thing is the website, your IDX feed. Everything else is incidental.
Okay. As we wrap it up here, 2 last questions. What was the best piece of advice that you received at the start of your career here?
It's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. It's okay to be nervous when you're making a phone call. It's okay to be nervous when you're knocking on a door. It's okay for people to yell at you. It's okay for people to roll their eyes. It's okay for them to not want to work with you. It's okay to emotionally and physically invest time and energy into a family that then doesn't work with you and they walk away. Like, it's okay to have those failures, because if you don't, you're never going to be on the other side. So there's this analogy about a pendulum, right? So if we have a pendulum, and on the side towards you, it's happiness and success and fulfillment and everything. And then on my side, it's all failure, rejection, all that stuff. We could live our lives without any rejection, because that's the number one thing, that new agents are going to fear rejection. That's it. They're going to think, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not experienced enough. And if you keep running through your head about all these things you're never going to get out of the way so you can be who you are. It's okay to not be all these things, but forget about it. Be who you are. So if I've got this pendulum and I'm afraid of being in this category of fear and failure and rejection and loss, the pendulum's never going to swing over to your side where I actually experience success. So that's the way I started looking at it. When I heard that analogy, I thought, I can't control success. I can control failure. So if I have to go have 100 people reject me, I can do that more than I can have 100 people accept me. I can go knock on 100 doors right now and have people tell me no. But every now and then someone's going to ask me what the market's doing. Someone's going to say, well, I know so-and-so who's listening, and I'm going to start swinging over into that area of success. So the number one thing for me was to know that it's okay to fail.
And that's really rooted in what you were talking about earlier of playing the numbers.
Yeah.
Like once you understand that this is a numbers game,
Yeah.
as with any sales industry, it really does change how you look at this.
Yeah, and don't hang on to leads with this death grip.
Yeah.
You don't have to. If someone is not working with you, you're doing more damage by keeping them on the drip or following up when they clearly don't want to work with you, because now they're going to go tell people, this agent's hounding me,
Right.
this agent's doing this. No, there's more people there.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's just numbers. So, yeah, learning to...
Makes rejection a lot easier.
Yeah, learn to walk away from it.
Because you almost, I don't want to use the word expect, I think that's a little bit too strong, but you understand that it's going to happen and you can accept that fact.
Yeah.
You don't live in denial.
No, you don't. And I heard about an agent who lost a multi-million-dollar listing because the person he was pitching didn't like the color of his tie.
Ooh.
And that's when you say, look, there are some things out of your control.
Right.
But he was there making the pitch. That's what mattered.
Uh-huh.
Everything else is incidental. So it's okay to fail. Like it seems like even as we were talking about like working out and morning routines and things like that, nothing in life comes without failure and without resistance and without breaking down and having to come back stronger. So failure's good. Setbacks are good. So like one thing that we focus on in our office, my wife and I always say, you're always going to have problems. There's always going to be problems and challenges. So the whole goal of real estate is to have a better problem, right? So everybody going through your school right now, their problem is they don't have their license.
Mm-hmm.
Once they have their license, they move on to a better problem. Well, now I don't have a brokerage. Great, get your brokerage, get your MLS access. Now my problem is I have no clients. Well, you're stepping it. You've already done your schooling, you're set up with your broker. Now a good problem is you don't have clients.
Yeah.
So let's go get them. I was talking to my dad the other day and I said, I have too many buyers and not enough homes. That's a good problem to have, rather than sitting here saying I have no buyers.
Yeah.
Right? I'll take that problem.
I like that.
So focus on always getting better problems. I have too many homes under contract. I'm busy. Right? I'm stressed out. I've got 10 closings that are going to happen this month. I need to hire a transaction coordinator. That's a good problem.
Yeah. I like that.
So you always focus on better problems. It's okay to fail. And realize, this is one of the biggest things I had to realize. If you go out and set a goal of 50 units, the first thing most people think is, okay, that's just a little over 4 months. So we'll round up. We'll say 60 units. I want them to do 60 units. That's 5 a month. Every month I have to do 5. Well, if I'm 3 months into it now and I haven't done 15 units, people start to fall apart because they're not on pace. And you've got to realize with this business, it's going to come in waves. So if you focus on the daily activities and not the outcome, again, just detach from the outcome, you're going to have a month where the closings make up for where you were a little at least.
Right.
But I see that's where a lot of new agents lose it, especially in the office where I walk around and they see that, and I was falling into it too. I went into Coldwell Banker and was the number 5. So last year I was the number 5 agent for all of Coldwell Banker. And so you start feeling like you're kind of the king. You feel like you walk around the office and you're like, everybody's looking at me because I'm number 5. This is awesome. Right. Look who's here. The big boss is here. And then they put out the report for March and you're behind almost everybody.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what am I doing wrong? And that's where this doubt comes in. This is not a business of consistency. We can be consistent in our actions, but the results are not consistent. You're going to have good months, you're going to have bad months. The most important thing is that you let the failure roll right off your sleeve. I could sit down every day and think about the probably hundreds of people that I've met that don't want to work with me again, but I focus on the hundreds of people I have met that do want to work with me. So let the failure roll off and realize that it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So do the things daily, and eventually you'll get to that goal.
I think that's great, Ben. I was going to ask what advice you would give to agents, but I think that covers the gamut of what agents need to know, whether they're new, whether they're struggling, or even whether they're successful, because as we talked about, you get to a level where you find a comfort. And it doesn't matter where you are. You could be closing $100 million, and that might be your comfort, and you could be closing, a couple $100,000 a year, and that's your level of comfort.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a level of comfort where we stop progressing. So I think that no matter where you are in your career, what you've said really covers everything.
Thanks.
So nicely said.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and really giving back to the industry. It sounds like it has treated you well, and I'm a big believer in always giving back. And I think that you coming in here and spending your time and talking about the systems you use, talking about your philosophies, what has helped you, what you've learned from, I think you've really honored everybody and the industry with being here. So we appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and I would just challenge every new agent that you're looking at, like, there's nothing special about me. Go beat me. Yeah, absolutely. I would challenge everybody to go do that. Put 60 units on the board and then figure out a way and you'll do it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.